All right, guys, welcome back to the SLC Dunk podcast. I'm really excited for our host or our guest tonight. He could be hosting this podcast, honestly, but our guest tonight is Rafael Barlowe. You may know him from working with Chad Ford at NBA Big Board. NBA Big Board. He also has created NBA Draft Junkies. I wanted to get Rafael not only because I love your stuff, one of the best draft follows out there. Everyone who's listening or watching on YouTube, make sure you go follow Rafael. It's at Barlowe 500, and I'll put a link down in the SLC Dunk article and then the YouTube video. But make sure you go follow Rafael. But anyways, Rafael, you had a really cool article that you put out on NBA Draft Junkies on your Substack, and it was about the Utah Jazz and 3 potential draft picks. So I wanted to talk about that. Anyways, sorry, I'm just diving in. I just want to welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was actually NBA Big Board. That's where the article was on.
Was it on NBA Big Board? Okay,
yeah, NBA Big Board, not NBA Draft Junkies. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'll put that on the link. NBA Big Board. You guys can all follow that. That was the one you worked on with Chad Ford, and now Rafael's running the show there. So that's great. Anyways, I'll put a link to that, guys. You've got to go read it. It's a lot of fun, and make sure that you just subscribe to the Substack. But anyways, I wanted to ask you, Rafael, since you're a draft expert, you're one of the best out there. Great follow. I know I learn a lot from your work and everything. The Jazz went into this offseason and they had no draft picks, no first round pick, no second round pick. They just had, and Jazz fans weren't really expecting much from this draft. So when the Jazz came out of these trades, and they've been the trades everyone's been talking about for Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, they also came out of these trades with 2 rookies. They have Walker Kessler and Ochai Agbaji, and I thought, there's no better person out there than Rafael to come on and kind of let Jazz fans know a little bit what to expect from those guys, and kind of what's your expectations for them as NBA players.
Yeah, Walker Kessler is a name I always get it confused. I have to stop myself. Is it Walker Kessler or Kessler Walker?
Kessler Walker. See, that's the thing. I'm not even that.
So I think you had it right. I think I'm wrong. It's always confusing to me every time like I said, I think I got it right. It's the other way around, but it is Walker Kessler.
Yeah,
it's weird because there's a guy in last year's draft or 2021 draft named Kessler Edwards.
That's right.
And then there's Walker. So anyway, he is a tremendous shot blocker. I know that's something that Jazz fans probably have a little bit more respect for than other fan bases. But he's just an incredible shot blocker. If I'm not mistaken, I think only like Hassan Whiteside had a better like block rate in the past like 10 to 15 years or something like that. So he's a very good defender. The concern is, can he defend in space? But I think he has a little bit more offensive game and upside than he was able to show at Auburn. He went to North Carolina his freshman year, didn't play much. He was behind Day'Ron Sharpe, who was playing for the Nets now. So he was kind of in a situation where there's kind of a log jam of bigs, goes to Auburn and just pairs with Jabari Smith, and they have like this dynamite defense. But he's, again, just an incredible rim protector. And then as far as Agbaji, he's a guy that, he's a 4-year guy, which is very rare in college basketball today. A lot of times you may think, if a guy's stuck around that long, then there must be something wrong. I have a running joke that if you're like ranked among your school's all-time leaders in some category, then you stayed in school a long time, because you don't see that anymore.
Oh no! I mean, if you're an NBA prospect, you're not staying in school very often.
Yeah, and so I think at one point, after his freshman year, people thought, okay, this guy's going to be a first-round pick. Didn't necessarily progress like people thought, but he's just one of the rare guys that chose to get better in college as opposed to getting better in the NBA or in the G League, whatever. Just had a breakout senior season, shot the cover off the ball. I think that his NBA role will be as this like 3-and-D wing transition finisher, can shoot off the move. I wouldn't expect much like offensive creativity off the dribble as far as like being a guy that, you can give the ball to at the end of the shot clock and clear out and say, go get us a bucket. But I definitely think that he was worthy of where he was selected. So he was selected at the back end of the lottery. So I thought Utah came out with two, good first round picks in this draft, or last year's draft or
I know. Well, we were just
draft.
excited. Oh yeah, we were so. I mean, honestly, it was such a depressing draft for Jazz fans because they had just had that really disappointing finish against Dallas, and then they have 0 draft picks to kind of replenish. So it's honestly, with all the trades, and I know the Jazz are probably not going to be very good next year. Watching Agbaji and it's either Kessler Walker Kessler now, it's gonna be interesting. I wanted to get so a lot of my I've been trying to watch some Agbaji film, and summer league he actually looked pretty impressive to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost looked a little. There's a hint of like Buddy Hield to me. I don't know if you see that at all, but he could really shoot it from 3, and I think that would be kind of. I don't know if he'll get to that level of scoring and shooting that Buddy Hield does, but the shot looks good. I don't know. I wonder if it could translate in that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I just think that the reason why he didn't have the same buzz, and it's funny, Buddy Hield went to school for a long time too. So
Yeah, so they're kind of comparable.
yeah, that's a comparison I've never thought of. My comparison for him was I thought he could end up being like a Desmond Bain, but Bain ended up falling late in the first round because said he was older, one dimensional. He didn't have like this crazy impressive wingspan, and that was a great pick by Memphis. I think in a redraft, Desmond Bain is definitely a top 10 pick, and so that was my comparison. As far as not necessarily saying their games are very similar, just the situation of a senior, and but Agbaji ended up, climbing up the draft boards as the season went on. He, Maine ended up being like a late first round pick. So, but yeah, I mean, he's ready to come in and contribute right away, which I thought for him would be more beneficial for him to go to a team that is looking for a rookie to come in and crack their rotation, as opposed to a team that is totally rebuilding. But either way, I think that Utah got a pretty good player.
Yeah, I think he has a chance to be a really nice role player in the NBA. And who knows? Maybe he's one of those guys that just gets to another level. Who knows? But that, like you said, the Jazz, or like we talked about, the Jazz traded Donovan Mitchell away recently. It's kind of been one of the big NBA storylines, and then obviously the Rudy Gobert trade. Both those trades definitely made the Jazz worse, and they're going to be in the running next year for some nice possibilities in the draft. My guess is they're probably going to at some point trade Bojan Bogdanovic and Mike Conley and all those guys, because there are some transcendent players in this draft. And you wrote about 3 draft possibilities for the Jazz in this draft, and I kind of wanted to go through all 3. And I think fans are getting to know this draft pretty quickly, because it really does feel like one of the more exciting drafts I've seen in a long time. Not only just kind of transcendent players, but honestly some pretty fun players that I think will be just unique and really different. And the one player that you kind of mentioned and everyone's talking about, he looks like, I mean, I can't wait to watch this guy enter the league. I hope it's for the Utah Jazz. I'll be honest. I really hope so. But, is Victor Wembanyama.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, he's kind of being compared to Gobert on defense. But then on offense, he's got this game. I mean, he does kind of look like Chet Holmgren, but he's bigger. And just from what I've seen, he looks a little more polished offensively to me. I guess you want to talk a little bit about Victor Wembanyama, what you see, and I guess I want to ask you: is this guy a potential MVP type player in the league when he comes in the league?
Not right away. I think that they're going to bring him along slowly. He has the same agent as Gobert. And so, I think for a lot of people, their first time hearing about him was this video came out when he was like 14, maybe, or 15, where he's playing Rudy one-on-one. And if you look at Rudy, I remember when Rudy played for the Bakersfield Jam.
Yeah.
Rudy came along slowly and just got better and better every year. And they, like I said, they have the same agent, and I'm pretty good friends with their agent. And so I think with Wembanyama, I mean, he just loads of potential. I mean, if you watch the under 19 tournament last summer, 2021, he outplayed Chet. I mean, if it wasn't for Kenny Lofton Jr., he saved Team USA from losing to France in the gold medal game. And in my opinion, Wembanyama was head and shoulders the best player at that tournament. And on Team USA, you had Johnny Davis, you had Kennedy Chandler, you had Chet Holmgren, you had Peyton Watson. All these guys were drafted. And, if Wembanyama doesn't get in foul trouble, then maybe France wins the gold medal. But there are some similarities to Chet. He's bigger. He's bigger than Chet. I know, like, he's been listed at 7'2", but he's really 7'5". And so,
huge.
Yeah.
Can I cut in? So one of the
Yeah.
things, so Jazz fans are already just like, I mean, everyone is talking. We're calling it Wembanyama Rama over here in Utah, and
Okay.
but what are your thoughts on the injuries? Like you mentioned, kind of he's had some minor injuries, or at least I've seen some people mention that. Maybe you didn't mention that. But what are your thoughts on that? Is that something for Jazz fans to be nervous about?
Yeah, anytime you have a big at that size, there are going to be some injury concerns, which is why I think that his agent Boona has like the perfect plan for him in a sense. He understands that there's this pressure of that the hype that's coming along with it, but he went from Asvel, which was a team in France. I think it's Tony Parker's part owner or something like that. And Asvel was a very competitive team. They played in the domestic French league and they played in the Euro League. And he moved Victor down to a team called the Metropolitans 92, which is just they're only playing in the French league. So they're only playing once a week. So he's preserving his body there. He's 7'5". Like he always was listed at 7'2", but even if you look at the picture from last summer when him and Chet were,
I mean, he makes Chet look small. It's crazy.
So I think they have a game plan in place as to make sure that he's getting better, he's developing, but not playing like 30 minutes a game, not getting beat up, just kind of bringing him along slowly. So I do think that some people may be a little bit disappointed because all the hype and they're expecting this Luka Doncic type year. That's not going to happen. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if he plays 20 to 25 minutes a game max. It's all about developing, letting him get stronger. And of course, you can't fully avoid injuries, but at the same time, just understand like this, he's young. Like he's actually young enough to where he could play at the under 19s next summer.
If he want. I mean, you know what? I really liked what you mentioned about Gobert because I think one thing, I mean, Gobert's been in the league for like 8-9 years now. And I think
he's even 30 yet?
He's right around 30. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. I think he might be exactly 30. But one thing I don't think people remember is that Gobert came in the league. He was so skinny, but he was so long and tall.
Yep.
And he got bullied in pre-draft workouts. That was part of the reason he fell to the Jazz. He played against, what's his name? Steven he's the Adams? Big center. Yeah, he played against Steven Adams famously in Minnesota and just got bullied. And I think he had some sort of ankle injury or something like that. But I mean, he had that injury that in that first season he got starting minutes with Gordon Hayward. They played the Clippers, and I don't know if people remember, he got injured on the very first play, and and he had some ankle injuries early in his career. The Jazz worked with him, and he's been really durable since then. So I think Wembanyama's similar. I mean, he's so tall, so skinny, so long. I think it's going to just take some time for him to learn how to prevent the injuries. I mean, even other guys that aren't even like as big as him, like Steph Curry, had to learn how to play with his ankle because beginning of his career, we weren't even sure if he'd have a long career, and so.
Yeah, I remember. I live in Dallas, and I remember the year Rudy came into the league. He did his pre-draft training in Dallas, and he was very thin. And I remember hearing stories that Boona was saying, like Boona's agent saying he's going to be very good. Teams are just like, no, he's raw. And Boona also used to represent Clint Capella, Clint Capella came along very slow too. He spent his whole entire first year in the G League, and then he ended up getting some minutes for the Rockets at the very end of the season in the playoffs, and then the next year he ended up being their starting center. So he has a track record of bringing his bigs along slowly. I mean, the pressures are totally different now. I mean, those guys have totally exceeded their draft positions, and Wembanyama's projected to go number one. But I mean, I definitely think that Boona has a plan for him, and I think just in general, in a sense, Utah is a place where I think the fans will be patient and definitely appreciate what he brings to the table. So, if you're a Jazz fan, for your sake, I mean, I'm hoping that he lands there, because I think the fan base, like I said, will be patient and understand that he's a kid. And so not expect, I mean, I think there's going to be expectations, but not expecting him to come right away and lead the team to like the conference finals in year 2 or 3. But I mean, I think he's going to be really good. He has some skill set that he hasn't really been able to fully showcase. I know last year they kind of had him playing as a jump shooter, and the numbers weren't there efficiently. They weren't there, but I've seen some video where he's handling the ball and shooting step backs. And he spent this summer in Dallas, and I didn't get a chance to watch him, but from everything that I've heard, and I know some people that are really in the circle, and most people, and I've heard this from multiple people, the thing that's the most impressive about him is they say that he is a genius. Like, they say he is extremely, extremely intelligent. And so, his trainer had mentioned to me, like, he would try to throw different things at him, and he just passed. Everyone said his mind, his processing speed, as far as how he, just processes information. He said it's just absolutely incredible.
I'm just gonna get more and more disappointed if we don't land the number 1 pick.
Well, I think somehow Beasley's gonna be moved. Donovan is going to be moved. Clarkson, Conley,
whatever we got to do. So, he's just, honestly, when I look at him, if you just designed like, hey, this is what I want, and just like an NBA prospect, he's just everything. And like when you mentioned the IQ, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too, I think this is something just from covering players for such a long time. He seems like he has drive, and he seems like he has that competitiveness. Those guys that have that just like competitiveness, that drive, it's the thing that kind of gets them to be better. I don't know if you've heard anything about that. Like,
yes, I have. I've heard that, like, he wants to be good, and not necessarily because of the expectations. He just wants to be good for himself, where they have to tell him, look, it's going to take some time. Slow down. You don't want to overextend your body or, put too much on it. Because you look at a guy like Yao, his career was shortened because he could never take breaks. And usually it's something that you can end up seeing with international players. I mean, even if you look at, we use Rudy, for example. He played the regular season this year. He played the Olympics last year. And then now he's playing Eurobasket this year. So for him to be as durable as he has been, despite the fact that he really doesn't get summers off because he's constantly playing with national team duties, it's pretty amazing. And I think with Victor, I think eventually you'll see that, but they're going to make sure that his body can handle it. And so set out to say this, I've heard it's just he wants to get better. He wants to play. He wants to be great. And there's kind of like a knock on French players in a sense. I mean, Rudy's like the exception. And I remember asking, because I've spent some time in France, and I've seen how, like, I've seen a team of French players at a pre-draft workout. And, if you didn't know, you just say talent for talent, skill for skill, they were on par with the Americans. And then once they started playing, it was a huge difference in the mentality. And so I was asking different people what made Rudy stand out. And they say Rudy's just, I mean, I've heard multiple people say this, but say that he's just naturally a jerk. But they say it in a way as if like he's driven. That's why he wears 27. He wants to prove everybody wrong, and he's still driven to prove teams wrong for passing on him in the draft. Then I've heard, Tony Parker has this chip on his shoulder, but it's because he spent half of his summers growing up in Chicago, and his dad let him get beat up on the playgrounds there. And I've heard Evan Fournier is just a natural, just worker, who's maximized all his talent because he's not like, the fastest, doesn't jump the highest. And they said that out of those guys, Victor is in the range of like Rudy, more naturally gifted, but just wants to really, really be great. He's not into like the whole lifestyle and being like Mr. Fashionable or just wanting to be an NBA player. They said he wants to be great first, and then his other interests fall in line behind that.
Yeah, I mean Rudy, because Rudy has some things with touch. He's never really quite developed certain elements of his game that really could have
not
taken
fluid.
Yeah, but Rudy's drive is just so big that he just, he became the best at the things he was good at. Rim protection, rolling to the rim, things like that. And so I think honestly, Rudy could be a great mentor for him. And to me, I'm kind of happy that Rudy is connected to Victor, that he can kind of mentor him when he comes into the league, and I think that's pretty cool. I wanted to talk. So Victor is, I just don't think anyone's gonna. But maybe it's possible. I think Victor's gonna be the number one, unless some crazy injury happens or something weird happens. The number two consensus is probably Scoot Henderson. You talked about Scoot and he being someone that maybe the Jazz might be looking at. Do you want to tell Jazz fans a little bit about Scoot and what he is as a prospect?
Yeah, Scoot is tremendous. He reminds me a little bit of your Derrick Rose, your Steve Francis. He's like this athletic point guard that can get to his spots anytime he wants to. Very advanced for his age. Was playing at only 17 years old in the G League against grown men. And I mean, he had some pretty phenomenal games there. The biggest concern is the outside shooting, but I think he just had a difficult time adjusting from high school to the NBA line. And I mean, with his athleticism and his strength and skill set, that he was able to get to the rim whenever he wanted in high school. And so he has big hands. I mean, I think he's going to be really good. I think he's a number one pick in other drafts. And I think there's still a chance that he could go number one this year or 2023, simply because he's going to have better numbers than Victor. He's going to have the ball in his hands. That whole Ignite team is going to really be built around him. And I think it's in like the best.
That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Fun to watch.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's in the best interest of the Ignite to have him like have a big year, simply because now they have so much competition with college basketball. Like the money situation doesn't
definitely
really matter that much anymore. Like they were hoping it to. So but yeah, I mean, I think there's an outside chance because even though, I mean, we've had bigs win, first and second in MVP this year. I guess if you consider Giannis a natural center, I still think it's a guard's game, a wing game. And he has just the tools that teams are looking for. So I think there's an outside chance. And I mean, it could end up being just an acquired taste. I mean, it could be a team that says, Wembanyama is rare, but the bigs we've seen at that size have had some injury issues. I'm going to go with the safer. We've seen more Derrick Rose, Ja Morant. We've seen more of those types than we've seen 7'5" guys have long NBA careers. So I think, again, there's an outside chance.
Yeah, so when I watch him, he kind of Derrick Rose, great comparison, like pre-injury Derrick Rose. The other guy he kind of makes me think of is like young John Wall. When John Wall came in the league, he was just so physically imposing, and he played that guard role. One thing I have a question: how big is Scoot? Because some of these sites, it feels like I don't know if he's like 6'2", is he 6'4"? How big is he?
I've seen 6'3". I've seen 6'3". But he was 17 last year, so he could grow.
He might grow more.
Yeah. But I know he has like a long wingspan and huge hands, and I think that
Really?
the big hands just makes it so much easier for him to finish around the rim. I mean, you remember like Michael Jordan, not saying he's Michael Jordan, but remember how he used to be able to just do crazy things with the
Oh my,
basketball
yeah.
and lay it up at the last minute because his hands were so big. And I mean, I've seen Scoot have a possession where he drove the ball and then he like palmed it off the bounce and dunked. And I mean, I haven't seen that from like a point guard. I think people said Stockton had really huge hands
Hmm.
that played a role in him being as good as he was. So I think that's like a major advantage that he has that people may not really notice right off the or notice immediately.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of players with like Kawhi has big hands,
Yep.
notoriously big hands, and it doesn't hurt,
No.
and it can help you. Well, I mean, that's one thing about this draft too is it's like a fun draft. At worst, Scoot Henderson is just going to be an exciting player in the NBA. I just have a hard time not seeing him be just pretty electric. And I think that's one thing that Scoot kind of has, maybe that Victor doesn't quite. Is I think you're right. I think it might take a year or two for Victor to kind of develop into his size because he is so long and big and but Scoot seems like one of those players that is probably going to be the rookie of the year. I imagine just he's going to come in, he's going to be on a team, and he's going to just get the ball and do a lot of. I mean, he's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Uh, so this I the I'm trying to get versed in the draft and there's a bunch of guys. Victor and Scoot get a lot of the headlines, and they're the ones that everyone kind of looks at, goes and watch their YouTube highlights. You met this other uh, set of players you mentioned this, and you mentioned an idea that was really fun to me. But you also wrote about the Thompson twins. This is the kind of the third, and I don't know. I've seen some mock drafts where these guys aren't falling in 3 and 4 and things like that. But you mentioned the Thompson twins. These are prospects that a lot of people are also excited about. Can you just tell Jazz fans a little bit about the Thompson twins? Um, I guess they're twins, and their
Yeah.
games are pretty similar actually, which is kind of interesting. But can you tell us a little bit about the Thompson twins and what you see when you watch them? Oh, and also, can you let me know what is it Overtime Elite? I am
Yes.
not quite sure what Overtime Elite is. Maybe you can explain what that is too.
So yeah, so for Jazz fans this year, you're gonna have to pay attention to more than college
Oh,
basketball because what makes this class so unique is that there's a chance, and the players that I mentioned in this article, none of them are playing college basketball. So if you're a Jazz fan, you may not be able to just turn on, ESPN and get watch the guy that you're hoping they select because Victor is going to be in France, Scoot is on the Ignite, and the Thompson twins are in Overtime Elite, which is going into their second year. And it was, I guess, the initial thought process behind it is we're going to start this league of young high school players. We're going to pay them. We're going to make them professionals, allow them to, be able to monetize their just monetize their likeness and be able to make money. I think they're getting paid like $100,000 a year, but they're taking classes, and it was
mm,
supposed to compete with the G League for different talent, and then the NCAA does NIL. So now, everybody's like throwing money at it, and guys are getting paid. But with overtime, last year was their first year. They had a couple kids that they thought were going to get drafted and did not get drafted. So people were just kind of saying, it's a high school league, it's a glorified high school league. The competition is not on the level as college basketball or the G League or even overseas. But then they get these twins, and they were able to get the Thompson twins before they like blew up on the AAU circuit. So they found them early. I mean, when I say these are two of the most athletic players I've seen enter the draft in years, I'm talking like that Vince Carter weird athleticism where it's like explosive, but it just looks really easy. Like there's some
mm,
guys like John Morant. He's an explosive athlete, but he's so fast and it just looks explosive. With these guys, I mean, it just looks effortless. Like it just looks like they're jumping off a trampoline with very minimal effort. They're about 6'7", 7-foot wingspans. One of them is more of a point guard. It's Amen, and he's a really good passer. And I actually saw somebody today say he's their number one pick. If they could take him number
Really?
one, I mean, super fast, very crafty with the ball. Just like I said, just an incredible above the rim athlete, and he's a good passer. I mean, he makes these live dribble passes, skip passes. I mean, it's like a big, like a big Ja Morant. And so at 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, and then his brother is more
Which is
so.
scary. I mean, what you just said is a pretty scary thing. Like a bigger.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this year, like with the additional exposure, you're gonna start seeing more people say like, "Wow, these guys are incredible." They're still a little raw. They can't shoot right now. I mean, shooting is the biggest issue. But the brother is more so of a wing because one of them has to have the ball. One of
Yeah.
them, they play off of each other. But he does have some passing ability. But they had a game yesterday where they played a team in Serbia that has known. I mean, I think Jokic came from the same program. They've had a number of guys make it to the NBA, and I think one of them had like 18 points, 11 assists, 10 rebounds, 5 steals, 4 blocks. Another one had like their stat lines were pretty much identical except one had more assists than the other. But I mean, they're phenomenal athletes, two-way players. Again, like they're just now starting to get like this buzz because they didn't play like the big AAU circuits where they had like a huge YouTube following before they got to this point. Um, and I mean, I think one of them could go number 3. I mean, you just don't find 6, 7 point guards that can pass that are just that athletic. So, again, they're still raw. The competition isn't the best. I think Overtime has done a good job recently trying to put them in different competitions. So they played in that TBT tournament this summer against grown men. And then they have them on the tour of Europe right now where they're playing against some older teams. So I think that's good for them. But I mean, phenomenal athletes, like jaw-dropping athleticism.
Well, I mean, at that size, that's what those are the tools you need to be just kind of that difference maker in the league. And you talk about their shooting. I mean, they're still obviously really young, but
Mm-hmm.
how, just from your experience, does the shooting stroke look like something that could improve?
Yeah,
What do you think?
it's not broken. I think it's very common when you see players with that level of athleticism to be able to get to the rim and just kind of thrive off athleticism, and you see the jump shot develop later. So I think the jump shot is something that can be fixed. Like you can't teach their length, their athleticism.
Yeah.
They're very competitive. Like my mom is a twin. I had mentioned in an article, so I kind of
Yeah, you
understand
mentioned your mom.
the twin dynamic. And so usually, I mean, there's like this internal competition with each other that makes them competitive, and it kind of spills out to everything they do. One wants to be better than the other, and so on. So they're very competitive, but I do think the shot can be fixed, and I mean it's going to take some time. It's a work in progress, but I don't think it's broken. I just think it's a matter of repetition, getting with the right shooting coach, and with their athleticism, as long as they're respectable,
Mm-hmm.
they're dynamite.
Well, and then you just think of the defensive uh, potential there. It's just pretty
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, the versatility and 6, 7, seven
Well,
foot wingspan. You can
oh my
defend
God.
1 through 3, maybe even 4 in some cases.
Well, yeah, how the NBA evolves. I mean, why not? But
Yep.
you mentioned something that was really fun, and you mentioned Danny Ainge, and there's some interesting possibilities with this draft with the Jazz. And you mentioned like the possibility. So you mentioned your mom, and it was nice. It was fun to read about your mom and her connection with her twin. It kind of reminded me of the Morris twins when they came in the NBA and how
Mm.
like they were so bonded. They had like literally like the same tattoos on their
Same
arm,
bank account. I remember
same bank
reading.
account,
Yeah.
and so like those bonds are like very real and very like and very close. And so you mentioned like Danny Ainge and maybe a possibility of of bringing the Thompson Twins to the Jazz in this same draft. And I thought, man, if that were the case, if somehow the Jazz could find, because the Jazz have a treasure trove of picks now, and let's say they somehow, like, I was kind of thinking about it. I don't think people remember. And Jason Tatum was the guy that Danny Ainge traded back to pick, and he was probably the best prospect in that draft. Now that everything's settled, maybe Danny Ainge can pull some sort of magic where maybe the Jazz decide, hey, you know what? It would be fun to have the Thompson Twins on the same team. It's 2'6'7" uber athletic wings that just can do it all. Would that be? I guess I just want to hear what your thoughts of what that would be like, having these guys be your two main players.
Yeah, I mean, Danny is a guy that, I mean, he has a reputation for just taking advantage of other general managers. I remember reading something, and like when he calls, people are scared because they're like, he has something up his sleeve. But and I think he was brought to Utah. Like, I remember, as soon as I heard he was going to Utah, I knew he had ties to the area. But I'm like, okay, Rudy and Donovan, they have 1 year to make this work, or Danny is going to come and clean house, and
That's what he
and it
did.
happened. And it's crazy because they have 3 picks in 2023, and they still have assets that they can move.
Well, see, that's what I thought. Like, let's say the Jazz. So Danny, obviously, he picked Jaylen Brown. He picked Jason Tatum. And one thing the Jazz have just been lacking, they've had some really good teams with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They've really kind of lacked that really athletic impact wing. They've had Bojan Bogdanovic, who's a good shooter, but he's not like an impact athlete. And it makes me wonder, like, I wonder if there's a world where the Jazz win like the number 2 pick, and maybe they decide, hey, there's a team out there that wants Scoot Henderson really bad. Maybe we can somehow trade back and get, like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to make this happen because I think it would be a blast. And one of the things that I think would make, Jazz fans happy is Jazz fans are always so worried about players wanting to re-sign here. Like, everyone kind of ends up wanting to leave. I think Donovan definitely was kind of interested in going to New York and things like that. And I wonder if you could somehow get the Thompson Twins together. They might love just playing together and being in Utah. And I wonder, but anyways, if the Jazz pulled off something crazy like that, would that be something that, if you were the GM of the Jazz, if you're Danny Ainge, would you put all your eggs in that basket and, give these Thompson Twins the reins and build kind of around their skill set? Is that something you would do if it was possible?
I think he's going to have, well, one, they have the picks. They have the luxury of saying, okay, all right, we didn't get 1, we didn't get 2. Let's see what we can do. Maybe we can trade one of our 26 or something like that. He can package, a Sexton or Beasley and a first round and a pick swap. I mean, they just have so many options. But more importantly, he's gonna have the time to build the team the way he wants to do it. It's not like it's, New York or LA where the fans are just, they just want to keep patching something together. He's gonna have time to build the team the way he wants to do it. And I think, and the reason why I kind of, talked about that in the article is because I think there's only a couple guys in the league, whether it's Presti or Ainge, that would have that type of cushion to where you can swing for the fences, you can make mistakes, and you still have 100 draft picks. It's like 15 or something picks in like the next few years. Like,
I mean, it's crazy. The Jazz are just loaded now.
yeah,
And they just, like you said, they can just build. Like, they have options. That's the other thing, is like the Cavs pick, they have an unprotected Cavs pick in 2029. And
like some
like
8th grader or something like that.
I know, we were like, I know, it's not like, how old is the player that's even going to be drafted? And so I was talking to people, I was like, how old am I going to even be in 2029? And it hurt my feelings, but like, I just was like, I think there are people that would be like, you know what, if we took 2 future picks from Utah, we would make this move, and they might be able to pull off something really fun. And I think the big thing for the Jazz is, I think they saw this draft because Victor's going to be great. I think Scoot's going to be great. And these Thompson twins, they have, I mean, that's incredible upside. I mean,
Yeah.
that type of athleticism and size, I mean, that gives you potential that's through the roof. And if you had like two of those guys on the same team, anyways, I just thought that was a really fun idea. I don't know if there's other teams out there that want to give it Danny Ainge what he wants, because it seems like everyone kind of gets mad at Danny, but
he has assets. I mean, you look at Clarkson as value. I mean, Conley's contract is really high, but he still has some value there. You got, I mean, the rumors of Phoenix wants Bogdanovich. And then if he already has 3 first-round picks. If he can end up with 1 or 2 more, he may be able to consolidate those for and a future pick for, get within, 2 picks in the top 10. I mean, we saw the Thunder had 2 lottery picks this year. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Utah has 2 this year in 2023.
Orlando's done really good with their picks. They Franz Wagner, and so who knows why can't the Jazz do that? Well, Rafael, I don't want to take too much of your time. This was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you coming on. Everyone, if you haven't already, go to NBA. Let's see, I keep saying it wrong. Draft Big Board.
NBA Big Board.
Yep. NBA Big Board. Go search NBA Big Board. I'll put the link in the video. I'm going to put the link in the article. Go click on that. Go read the article. And also go follow Rafael on Twitter. He's fantastic. Rafael, thanks for coming on the show. This was a ton of fun. I might reach out to you sometime during the season, and maybe we can.
Anytime. I mean, I feel like I'm going to have a lot of interest coming from the Beehive State.
So, you definitely are. Jazz fans, like, honestly, Jazz fans, go and subscribe to the Substack, because this is the year for Jazz fans to really get, educated on all the different players. This draft is loaded. We haven't even talked about guys like Cam Whitmore, and there's other guys in this draft that are just, I mean, it's just a great draft to be in, and the Jazz are definitely all in. So, but thank you, Rafael. I'll be reaching out sometime in the future here to talk about the draft and other things. So, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, anytime. Let me know. I mean, if all goes well, I'm planning to spend a good chunk of the year in France. I can give you live Wembanyama updates. So,
well, I might be bothering you in the DMs. Just say, hey, what are you hearing?
Yeah, let me know. I appreciate this. So yeah, just shoot me a message, and we can make it happen.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rafael. I'll talk to you later.
All right, have a good one.